Okay, so I have two children of mine that have autism, and I've been working professionally with families that have children or young adults who have autism for about the amount of time that I've known that my children have that. So about close to 15 years now. So I came up with a scale. I went to a lot of workshops, read a lot of books, came up with stuff, and there's a lot of academics, a lot of theory, a lot of explaining the research, and that you could do these experiments, and but none of that was actually therapeutic things that I could do on the fly in life to change behaviors. And that's what I was looking for. So I came up with this as an assessment and a therapeutic tool that I could use in order to help understand where each of my children were coming from, and then help other people understand where their children are coming from. So this is actually true for everyone, whether you have autism or not. But in general, autism is also known as sensory perception disorder. So a person's senses work, that they see, they hear, they smell, they taste, they feel things. So their senses work, but when that information, that data gets collected from outside of them and goes into their brain, the way their brain processes it is to tell them that it's either too much stimulation or it's too little stimulation, when for most of us we consider it in our comfort zone, amount of stimulation that we're comfortable with. And so we don't understand then why this person is throwing a tantrum or acting out in some way, because there's nothing going on that is making anybody else uncomfortable. So why are they uncomfortable? Why are they acting out? So this scale helps with that. So we all have our comfort zone, and I call this a sensory diet, so that you can set up a diet in which you help a person stay in their comfort zone, but if you want to stretch their comfort zone, you need to help them have experiences that are just outside their comfort zone or just at the edge of their comfort zone, until they can become comfortable with it, and then that will stretch their comfort zone a little bit. We all have our comfort zone, those things that we are comfortable doing. The things in the middle of our comfort zone bring us back to being comfortable when we're already uncomfortable. So for me, taking a walk, listening to music, being out in nature. So if I could take a drive up to, I'm in Arizona, so there's a place called Sedona. It's beautiful, and it just feels very nice to be there and be out in where there's trees and in nature and breathing clean air. It's not overpopulated, so it just feels really good to me to be there. I enjoy Sedona a lot. But I can't always go to Sedona. So for my sensory diet, I would go to Sedona occasionally, but I might just take a walk or listen to music, or take a walk while listening to music, in order to change myself from being stressed out up to my neck to dropping that down to a level that I could go back into a situation at work or in a relationship or in life. I can go back in and deal with it 5 or 10 minutes later. So so there are those things that bring me back to my comfort zone even when I've traveled out of it. There are things that are more on the edge of my comfort zone. Now for my children, I have one child who is, in terms of their sensory stuff, they're a sensory seeker. So they like a lot of stimulation. So that would lead her to going and doing things like, if she could get into where all of her toys and clothes were, that she would throw everything out onto the floor and just make a big mess of it. But she's more comfortable with the chaos of that and seeing a lot of stimulation of things that are happening and being able to throw things around than she is having things be in orderly. My son, on the other hand, he likes things orderly. He does not like to be overstimulated, and so he keeps his life simple. So he can be comfortable with a certain amount of relationships and connection to people, but then there's a point where it's just too much for him and he's not comfortable, and so he can retreat into computer games and other things that will allow him to be comfortable, because those are predictable and controllable, and people are not. Sometimes people can be, but they can also not be, and he doesn't want to be controlling over other people. He just wants to be able to he can do that with a video game. So Everybody has their comfort zone. Everybody has things that are in their comfort zone but close to the edge. Everybody has things that are outside their comfort zone. It's too much. For someone who is easily overstimulated, who has sensory issues, they might be in the same room as you, and the amount of light in that room is too much for them. There might be 5 people in that room. For them, that's 4 people too many. Them and one other person is okay, but more than one other person in a room that size is not comfortable for them. It might be that it's a big gymnasium type of a room and it echoes, and the echo sound might be overstimulating for them. There might be a PA system, and when people come on and start talking on that, that is too much for them. And so there's lots of things that can cause a person to feel overstimulated. It's an individual thing. What is overstimulating to one person is fine and comfortable to another. With people with autism, sensory perception is that often that they are overstimulated by things that the rest of us don't consider to be overstimulating, and so we don't understand why are they acting the way that they're acting. Why are they acting as if they're completely stressed out and they can't handle the situation, when the rest of us don't see anything going on that's that big of a deal. We're just in a gymnasium with people playing basketball, and it's like, so the ball is bouncing and people are jumping around, yelling and running. It's like, so what? That's what we're here for. But for that person, that's just too much. They can't handle that. They shouldn't be there. So again, that would be a person crossing their comfort zone into overstimulation, which causes stress. And so what you might want to do is to help that person to be able to go to the gym and stay for 5 minutes, if they can do 5 minutes and be comfortable, but then they're gradually becoming stressed out, and then you take them out. And bit by bit you increase that, and then you also might have basketball in which you dribble not in the gym but somewhere else. You dribble the ball and it's just them and you help them get comfortable with that and how to play, and bit by bit you stretch their comfort zone through having repeated experiences that then when they get to the gym and people are running and playing, they eventually are able to join in and accept that level of stimulation as being inside of their comfort zone. All of us have stretched our comfort zones. When you were 5 years old and went to kindergarten, your parents didn't say, well, school is school, let's drop them off at the high school, we'll drive up and drop them off and they'll go in, they'll get a locker, they'll go from one class to another class every hour with different kids and different teachers, and that'll be okay. I mean, they're 5 years old and they're going to school. Why not just go ahead and start with high school? Well, because that would be a sensory overload. Their brain is not going to be able to get themselves comfortable with all of that. It's a lot of changing, a lot of transitioning, it's a lot of confusion and a lot of chaos, and we expect high schoolers to be able to do that, but we wouldn't expect any 5-year-olds to be able to do that. So it's important for us to know that sometimes a person with sensory issues is going to be developmentally many, many years younger than what their age is. So they might be 15, but they might developmentally be 5, and you're sending them off to high school and expecting them to do all of these things, and it's just not something that they're ready for. So we can do things to stretch their comfort zone and help them to do that. That the way that I stretched my comfort zone and you stretched your comfort zone is we had a comfort activity first before we were doing something that was stressful to us. We were doing something that allowed us to be comfortable. So we didn't start off being stressed out at the beginning of the situation, but we went into it already being comfortable and having an amount of stress that is down at below our knees. And so as the stress came up, we had a certain period of time in which we could still handle it, but once it got up to our chest level, it was getting to be too much for us, and so we needed to escape from that situation and go back and do something comfortable. So you do something to be comforted first, a comfort activity, then you stretch your comfort zone by doing something that's outside of your comfort zone, but only for a period in which you can successfully manage it and then leave it. And when you leave it, you get a reward for having done it. So all of us do this in terms of work, that some of us love our jobs and we would want to do that even if we weren't being paid for it, but we have to make a paycheck, so we've chosen a job that we love, so that it doesn't feel like we're ever working. But some people hate the job that they're in, and they only do it so that they can get the paycheck. So the paycheck is the reward. I hate going to work, but I'm going to go and do it because I want the reward at the end. So with the person who has sensory issues, the reward at the end would be something that comforts them or that they consider to be a reward. Often food items are used. They might like barbecue chips, they might like M&Ms or Skittles, and so you can have them do something for 5 or 10 minutes and then take them out of the situation and give them a reward, and then they might return to that situation a few minutes later. They might go take a walk and listen to music, and that's their reward. They might just get a lot of praise and attention and hugs and told what a great job they did, and then they might be able to just return and then do it for another 5 or 10 minutes. So again, you want to stretch the comfort zone from wherever they are, which first you have to assess by writing what's in their comfort zone and what's outside their comfort zone just a little bit, but you don't want to do things that are way outside their comfort zone. So if you had a fear of heights, you wouldn't make the first lesson in getting over your fear of heights to go up in a plane and jump out in a parachute, because that's way too much. That's way outside your comfort zone. You would want to start by going to some place like the mall, which has 2 floors maybe, and letting the person walk around on the 2nd floor far away from the rail. But eventually, day from day, they might work their way towards where they can walk around on the 2nd floor holding onto the rail and looking over the side and knowing that they're on the 2nd floor, and there is a drop off right there, but there's a short wall and a rail that is going to stop them from falling. And so, but they might not be able to start next to the rail. They might have to start on the farthest wall away from the rail, walking around up there. So they're still on the 2nd floor, but they're not going to feel the level of stress that they will if you make them go by the rail. So again, you have to continually, gradually increase, but you don't want to increase it to the point that they're unsuccessful or they fail at it. You want to build on success upon success. So if a person is walking around on that 2nd floor and they're able to do that for 5 or 10 minutes, then you might increase the amount of time. Then you might gradually increase closer and closer to the rail. So you have them finish with being successful at it and being rewarded, and then you build upon that each time by trying to get them to do a little bit more and be successful still. Don't push them to the point of failure, okay? Because then you're building failure upon failure instead of success upon success. So this is a sensory diet. You can use it for what's too boring, what's too stimulating, what's in the comfort zone. Once you have that, you have a plan, then you start working the plan to pick the things that are just inside or just outside of the comfort zone and repeat those activities gradually with success upon success until that becomes inside the comfort zone far enough that it's not even an issue anymore. That's how you stretch your comfort zone. It's how I stretched my comfort zone. It's how you can stretch the comfort zone of your child with autism or your young adult.